reminds me of that really, really tall guy.
Hey there, I'm Mr. Thief. Today we're going to talk about how to turn your drawings for Scholastic into matted work. So come on over here and let's take a look at what we have at our table. These are James's drawings, and as you see, they're in pencil, and they really don't look like they're ready for a show. Here we have some drawings that have been matted and covered with a plastic covering to protect them. These are ready for Scholastics. I want you to notice something else. On the back, we don't have the forms yet, or the envelopes, but you will be attaching your forms and your envelope full of the second form, and you'll be writing your numbers in the backs of these as well. And we'll be talking about that when we're done. One other thing to mention about how we mat drawings, we mat them with 2.5-inch borders on the top and sides, and a 3-inch border along the bottom. This is called the golden rule. We add a little bit of extra matting along the bottom to help the image look like it's not falling out of the frame. If you go to a quality mat store, they'll do that for you. Okay, next let me explain this. This is a simple form that I give my seniors. It's supposed to help you plan out your matting. And measuring things with a ruler can be a challenge for many students because we don't do it a lot. But please keep in mind that when you're using inches, inches are divided into eighths, or halves, or quarters, or sixteenths. Tenths have no place in terms of inches, so leave tenths out of it. What we're going to do here is we want to create a situation where we have 2.5-inch, 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 and then 3. Notice that 2.5 plus 2.5 equals 5. Add that to the width of your window, and you get the first measurement here. The whole mat is going to be as wide as this plus this plus this. Your mat height is going to be as tall as this plus your window plus down here. That's why we add 5 inches to the window width, and we add 5.5 inches to the window height. That gives us a very important measurement. Next we go over to the paper cutter, and just follow me over here. When we cut something with the paper cutter, we have to be careful to get the size just right. Alright, next step. This chart is very helpful for me. James and I have gone over it, and I'm going to use the mat width and height measurements over here in this far right column. This tells me how big I need to cut the mat on the paper cutter. Now, you can go to the mat or to the art store and buy your own map board. Remember, for Scholastics, we only use black or white map board. And if you're going to buy it from us, we charge you $5 a sheet. Alright, it goes without saying, if you're paying $5 for a sheet of map board, you don't start cutting right in the middle and render both sides kind of like messed up. So, and also you try to get as much out of the sheet as you can, and also take advantage of these nice right angles that already come on every piece of map board. So right now I'm going to cut the first one. My first one has to be 14.5 inches high, so I'm going to put this into the mat here. Being careful not to hurt myself, of course. There is a guard here to keep my fingers out of the way. You are a senior, so you should be careful because you are distracted often by senior-type issues. I don't let anyone else use this except seniors. Okay, I have this at 14.5. Can you move this over here and show them where the 14.5 is? Pretty important that they know that there's measurements along here. We have inch measurements, and we also have a grid along here so I can double check and make sure my mat is not moving. Okay, holding my mat securely with my hand, I'm going to press really hard on the paper so it doesn't slide, and now I'm pulling the cutter down, and that's 14.5 inches. Next measurement is 13 3/4 inches. So I'm going to move this over to 13 3/4. Remember, we said it was divided into eighths, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eighths, or 3/4. And there we are. Going to pull this down and cut this mat. Now, bring the camera over here. I want to show one more thing. I like to keep track of my mats as I cut them. That's why I put a portfolio number here. We're going to keep track of this as mat number 1, And I'm going to write the number 1 and then draw an arrow going down. That's because I want to remember that this is 14.5 inches high and 13 3/4 wide. I keep track of that measurement. Now I can set that off to the side, and the next thing I'll do is work with the window mat cutter. Okay, next step. We cut our piece on the mat board, or on the paper cutter over here. This is our number 1 piece. And this is 13 3/4 inches wide and 14.5 inches high. We've already marked on here where our bottom border is. We put the 1 here and put the arrow down. So we want to cut a 3-inch strip across here, but we also want to be careful to make it 2.5 inches from the left and the right side. So we basically have to cut at a bevel. So take a look at our mat cutter. This is the Logan Intermediate Mat cutter. And I want you to zoom in here if you can. We have this edge set at 3 inches. Our first edge is going to be 3 inches. Our mat cutter, as you can see, the blade is recessed. As we push it, it comes through at an angle. So this cutter latches onto this track and slides back and forth. We make sure that we have underneath, we have more than 1 piece of cardboard, generally 2 pieces of tag board as a cutting pad. Absolutely must have that or you will ruin the cutter. We take our mat, it's black. We put the black side down. We have it arrowed in because we need our 3-inch edge here. We press it against the edge. We press it in until it stops. Now we're ready to cut. There's one more thing though. We need to figure out how far is 2.5 inches from the edge of the page. You can take a ruler and draw a box inside here if it makes you feel better, or you can take a piece of tag board like I have and cut it to exactly 2.5 inches wide. Watch what I do with this tag board. I lay this tag board on my mat. I place the mat cutter down, and if you can, I want you to zoom in over here and look at the relationship between this little white line and this piece of mat board. From here to here is 2.5 inches. That helps me measure. Now I'm going to press this in. You can hear the blade go into the mat. Now I'm going to move this measurement pad over here, and I'm going to firmly press, holding the mat down, and slide the mat cutter across, and I stop when the little white line gets to the edge of the black shape. Okay, can you zoom in on that a little bit? I want you to see that little white line. Okay, now I'm going to pull the mat out, and we have our beveled edge cut exactly 2.5 inches from the sides. Now usually I would take my other 3 mats or 4 mats or 8 mats and cut all of the 3-inch borders on them, but because we're demonstrating this, I'm going to go ahead and show you how we change the cutter to the 2.5-inch measurement. Unscrewing these 2 knobs, we don't want to unscrew them too far. Unscrewing these 2 knobs though, we can slide this on a diagonal until this line, it says read scale from this side, until it gets to the 2.5-inch mark. Then I tighten the knobs. I'm going to go ahead and push my backings back in underneath here. Now the mat is upside down again. We've already cut our 3-inch border. Next we need to cut from here all the way to here and stop at 2.5 inches. So here's what I'm going to do. My mat cutter is in. Notice now I'm going to line up the little white line with the cut I've already made, and take my 2.5-inch piece of cardboard, place it over here, insert my blade by pressing down. Notice see how I press down? Press down, and now using my big Fred Flintstone thumbs, I'm going to push this across the cutter like this, and I'm going to stop right when I just get past that 2.5-inch mark, and then I release. I'm going to do the same thing to this one. I'm going to insert this, slide, release, and now I don't need this measuring thing anymore because I already have the edges that I'm cutting against, so I just have to line the little white line up with each of those edges, insert the blade, and slide it across. And now we have our beveled mat, which we can place over our drawing. One more thing left to do. We need to make the plastic covering to protect the drawing when it's at the show. Did it start? Yes. Okay. All right, the next step is we're going to put the plastic in here to protect drawing. Scholastics requires that all drawings be sprayed with fixative and have plastic over them. It's unfortunate because many times that plastic causes reflections and glare to show up. So I'm going to take my my plastic, and we have this in the art department. Ask me where it is when you need it. You can have it. I'm going to go ahead and cut a big enough square so that I can have overlap so I can tape it inside the window of the mat. Let's see, this should be a little easier than this. Okay, not too difficult. You have to be careful. In this art room, we have a lot of dust, so you're going to have to kind of gently clean off this plastic when you're done taping it to the mat, because there's sawdust and dust and dirt and everything all over this room. Clay dust as well. So pull this nice and tight, just like you're stretching a canvas. You don't want it to be wrinkly. I like to pull it from the middle first. Then I usually do it from the corners. And you get the picture. You want it to be really taut, nice and tight. That's probably good enough. I'm going to tape it a little bit more just to be on the safe side. I don't want it to come apart. By the way, I'm using tape from the art room. This is archival tape. It's tape made for using for matting things. It doesn't have acid in it, so it won't cause your mat boards to turn brown. Costs a little bit more money, but having art tape is a little better. Okay, now we're ready to attach this to our drawing. We have the drawing, and it has been cleaned up. You cleaned this up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And we take our tissue or something and just gently try to take the dust off the plastic in case it did get a chance to get a little dusty. It is a dusty place here in our room. And this is how I like to do it. I like to put little pieces of tape at the top of the artwork. Just don't want it really all over the artwork, just a little bit at the top and bottom edge. And then we lay the artwork over the frame, and we try to position it in a way that sort of works for us. How does that look?
Looks good.
Okay, we're going to press it down. Oops. I don't want the leaf touching the edge. Move it over a little bit. Oh, it is close to the edge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the one with the leaf.
That's about as good as we can get. Okay, I'm going to press firmly at the top. Head inside. There's already something. Last thing. Hold on. After your work is matted, it looks like this. You still have to do a few more things. On the back of your work, we need to put our school number. This year, our school number is 226. That's for 2008. I don't know what it's going to be every year. It's different every year. You have your school number, then you have your initials. Your initials, whatever they are, first and last initial. And then you have a number that corresponds to the number on your list, on your portfolio list. So if you have like 8 things in your portfolio, you'll have numbers 1 through 8. This is an individual entry that I'm sending in, but the procedure is the same. The forms that you print out, remember you printed out 3 copies, you keep 1 for yourself, you attach 1 form to the back using our tape gun or using glue, or you can tape it on, and then you attach a full-size envelope. And I have some of these if you need them. This envelope, you don't seal it shut by licking it. You seal it shut with a piece of tape so they don't have to tear it open too hard. And then inside, what do you have? You have a second copy of your enrollment sheet, which, by the way, has a barcode generated by the computer. So they can always just zap it with a little laser reader, and they have all your information in the computer. If your individual piece wins in Scholastic, they take this out, and they use this to process your award. We leave this attached to the artwork to keep track of your artwork when it's moving around in the show. At the end of the show, everything is sorted according to schools, so there's going to be a 226 pile, and in that pile you're going to see things from Mr. Thies and Mrs. Forrest and Mr. Cinderello, and then all the portfolio things will be there too. Okay, so I hope this helped to explain how to mat your work for Scholastic. The main thing is make sure that you measure correctly so that you don't waste any mat board. We charge you $5 per sheet, so make sure you don't make any mistakes. We don't charge you for the plastic for drawing, and that is here for you to use. If there are any questions, you can always ask your art teacher. Okay, thank you.